Tune in, a rare celestial alignment, on June 19th. On June 19th, something rare will unfold in the sky. The Moon, Saturn, and Neptune will align in the same celestial space. Three cosmic forces, emotions, structure, and intuition, that almost never act in unison, will speak to you simultaneously on this night. And each person will hear something uniquely their own. This is more than just a visual phenomenon. It's a moment when different inner layers, your emotional depth, mental clarity, and intuitive knowing, converge into one seamless current. A channel opens, allowing for subtle attunement. Nights like this don't bring dramatic resolutions, but they can offer something just as powerful. A quiet shift within, where what once felt scattered begins to come together. Without effort, without overthinking, just a deepening silence. And within that silence, a sudden clarity. This night is special, not because it might bring change, but because it will show you that change has already begun. It's a rare window, not just to glance through, but to step into, if you're willing to tune in. On June 19th, the cosmos may gently realign your inner world. Emotions that once threw you off course may suddenly make sense. Thoughts may quiet, and your sense of self may feel calmer, more grounded, and more whole. But this is where the true turning point lies. Accessing this channel requires just one thing. It's not about actions, rituals, or planning, but if missed, the energy will simply pass you by, and all that could have opened will remain behind a closed door. What is this one condition? I'll share that soon. For now, don't rush to understand everything at once. Just stay present with this day, because behind its stillness lies something far greater than it seems. When three planets meet, a portal of inner alignment. June 19th. When three planets appear to converge in one part of the sky, it's no longer just an astronomical event. It becomes a sign, one that defies logic and speaks through sensation. You feel it in your skin, your breath, your inner landscape. It's one of those rare moments when a glance at the night sky feels like a quiet response to something that's been stirring within for a long time. Slowly, wordlessly, yet unmistakably clear. The moon comes first, as always. She awakens emotion, illuminating what hides behind the rush of daily life. Her presence makes every inward glance just a little deeper. Neptune amplifies it all. Dreams, intuition, subtle premonitions begin to unfold. And Saturn, standing nearby, doesn't let these sensations drift off into formless waves. Instead, he gathers them, building a structure from them, as if you're suddenly becoming aware of where you truly want to stand. This isn't a storm, not a shakeup, not an emotional surge. It's a quiet shift, one that isn't heard with the ears, but felt in the heart. The world doesn't change outwardly. It begins to sound different within, and the quieter everything becomes, the more clearly you sense it. Something has moved, almost imperceptibly, but irreversibly. If in recent days you felt tired, drawn to solitude, in need of a pause, don't rush to call it regression. It's not a setback, not a loss. It's a sign. Everything that once interfered with hearing yourself has begun to dissolve. Even if you didn't notice it, the process of tuning in has already begun. Now your inner space feels as if it's aligning to a subtle, almost otherworldly rhythm. Even the simplest state, stillness, calm, a gentle sense of distance, starts to feel important. As if you're in a waiting room, but not an anxious one. A waiting that soothes, a sense that something is approaching, not from the outside, but from deep within. It's on days like these that everything seems to slow down. But this is not a stop. It's a pause where a new sense of direction quietly takes shape. You're not losing energy. You're gathering it. Not for a push, but for understanding. Because when three forces align so closely in the sky, they draw a map, not one to be seen with the eyes, but felt with the soul. This map won't tell you what to do. It will show you where you already are. And if you listen closely, you may notice how the paths that once felt vague begin to form a clearer trajectory. Without rush, without pressure, simply because you stop chasing the external and begin returning to yourself. The sky truly feels closer now, not because the planets have moved, but because you're becoming attuned to their rhythm. And this attunement asks nothing of you but one simple thing: to be present, to pause, to feel, to allow. And it's exactly in that moment, when you stop chasing answers, that the space around you begins to respond. It lets go of tension, softens from within, and gently whispers, "Now, just be with yourself." No expectations, no struggle, only presence. There are days when the universe seems to loosen its grip, when the air feels lighter, the inner noise fades, and former anxieties lose their power. June 19th is one of those days. A day when you don't have to fight for balance, because the cosmos itself begins to attune you, like a sensitive instrument long out of tune. Saturn offers solid ground. He says, you have a right to stand where you are, even if everything isn't clear yet. Neptune unlocks inspiration. He won't give you ready-made answers, but he sparks a soft light within that says, you already know. Just stop doubting. And the moon, in this rare alliance, brings exquisite sensitivity. She amplifies the signals that come not as thoughts, but as feelings. And if you fall silent within, even for a moment, you will hear them. It's on nights like this that a portal opens, not outwardly, but inwardly. A transition invisible to the eyes, but unmistakable to the soul. This portal asks for no effort. It doesn't demand proof. It only asks one thing: to be with yourself as honestly as you haven't allowed in a long time. This is a moment to bring order not to your to-do list, but to your emotions. A moment not to drag the past into the light, dissect it, or fix it. Because what's truly outdated will begin to dissolve on its own, gently, painlessly, only if you let it go. You may wake up that day and feel that everything is just a bit quieter, a bit more transparent, as if the density of your inner world has lifted slightly. This is not coincidence. This is the portal at work. Dreams that night may carry messages. Thoughts may feel softer, less forceful, more directional. And a decision you've been unable to reach for weeks may arrive, quietly, not as a should, but as a soft, certain, this is it. No doubt, no extra words. Even those who don't usually listen to their inner world might suddenly feel clarity. Emotional blocks don't vanish through struggle. They begin to weaken the moment you stop fighting them. That's the essence of this energy. Not effort, but acceptance. This state won't come to those who rush to find it. It will choose those who can stop, even for a few hours. Those who can turn down the external noise and give the silence inside a bit of space. Because that silence is where the balance begins. Not through discipline, but through trust. You don't need to do anything special on this day. But if you simply allow yourself to be, without pressure, without obligation, without trying to figure it all out, you may notice the inner contradictions begin to soften. The forces that once pulled you apart stop competing. And in this quiet rebalancing, you feel something new. You're not on the edge. You're in the center, right in the place where healing happens. The portal that opens on June 19th won't be loud. It won't bring instant enlightenment, but it will offer a space in which you can finally remember the inner steadiness that's always been with you. It's not dramatic, but it's real. And now, at last, you are ready to return to it. That is the most subtle, yet powerful gift of this night. Not to change everything, but to feel, perhaps for the first time in a long while, that there's nothing left to fix, only something to trust, and in that trust, your true peace. The quiet birth of true intention. June 19th. And it's precisely within the stillness that follows inner alignment where the next level begins to take shape. It's as if a quiet space opens up inside you, free of pressure, yet filled with direction. There is no rush, but there is a clear vector. Not one imposed from the outside, but one rising gently from within. This state is difficult to describe with words because it's not tied to familiar motivation. There's no urge to achieve, prove, or chase. Instead, there is a quiet longing to be in harmony with what has been ripening for a long time, with what already exists, though you may not have seen it clearly before. This is how true intention is born. Not the kind you list in goals, not the kind born out of fear of missing out, but the kind that arises as a feeling with nowhere else to go. It doesn't push, it leads. On the night of June 19th, the energetic field will gently guide you into this exact state, a moment where you may realize you no longer need to choose between intuition and logic, between feeling and action, because suddenly they begin to work together, not in conflict, but in harmony. It's in states like this that real inner shifts happen, not because you make a decision, but because you finally allow yourself to agree with what has long been growing inside. And even if you can't yet explain it, you can feel it. You know. That's why this night is so important to experience, not in fragmentation, but in wholeness. Not pulled between should and want. Not arguing with yourself, just quietly observing. Where are you being gently pulled? What suddenly becomes obvious? Where inside do you feel the soft nod of truth? Yes, this is mine. And maybe, for the first time in a while, you won't rush to ask, how do I make this happen? Because the question that comes first is no longer how, but why. And once that deeper why begins to rise, not from your mind, but from your energy, the answer starts forming on its own, not as logic, but as a felt impulse. The intention that emerges on days like this asks for no effort, because it doesn't come from control, it comes from consent. It doesn't require detailed planning, because it already holds a trajectory. All it needs from you is this. Don't resist it. Don't delay it. Don't break it down into pieces again. You may feel it as a soft inner yes to a step, a choice, a path, perhaps even to something that used to scare you, or that once felt premature. But within this energy, nothing is premature. There is only what becomes available the moment you stop pushing it away. Sometimes, this direction reveals itself not through action, but through stillness. When you suddenly understand, nothing needs to be urgently changed, because something inside has already shifted, and now everything will begin to arrange itself differently, naturally. That's why this night does not ask you to act. It asks for just one thing. Do not interfere with the agreement already forming within you. If you can release the pressure of "I must" and replace it with the honesty of "I feel," you'll enter a current that moves you without resistance. And perhaps this very movement, effortless, unforced, will be the most powerful shift you've felt in months. Because the true strength of intention is not in gripping it tightly, but in letting it unfold. And the night of June 19th is made for exactly that. Sometimes the most important things only become audible when silence finally settles within. When you're no longer dragging thoughts behind you, when you're not distracted by the external, when you simply pause and allow what's already approaching to unfold. That's why now, right now, is the time to speak about it. About the one condition I've kept quietly in the background. Without it, the meaning of this night might go unnoticed. Not because the energy will vanish, but because you might pass right by it without hearing what truly matters. It's not a ritual, not a method, not magic words. It's the absence of rush. Yes, it really is that simple. And, at the same time, that challenging. Because it is rush that makes us deaf to subtle guidance. It's the need to get results right now that blocks access to the inner processes that unfold on their own time. June 19th doesn't open a portal for rapid change. It opens a space for deep alignment. This is not a night to chase an effect or force insight to arrive. Everything works differently here. You don't step into this night to get something. You step in to listen. And you can only hear what you've allowed the space to emerge. This is not a night for loud decisions. This is a night of tuning, of permission, of gently connecting with what has long been whispering inside. This is it. But that voice won't scream over your control. It won't push through the noise. It waits, patiently, for you to slow down, to let yourself not rush, just for one evening. If you can simply be with yourself, without demands, without pressure, without analysis, the energy will do the rest. It will calibrate you quietly, through breath, through sensation, through a subtle inner nod that speaks more than any words could. You may feel it as a gentle relief, a soft release, as if something inside just clicked into place, or a tension you didn't even realize was there simply lifts. That's the sign. You've allowed the energy of this night to touch you. And the opposite is also true. If you're trying too hard, waiting impatiently, searching for signs, demanding results, the space will remain closed. Because it doesn't respond to pressure. It only opens in freedom. So the most important thing is this. Don't try to take everything from this night. Let it offer you exactly what's ready to come. Don't interfere. Don't accelerate. Just be with yourself and allow the state to unfold. And maybe, on such a quiet, unassuming evening, when you expect nothing special, you'll finally become truly ready to receive something greater. Something that's been coming toward you for a long time, but couldn't quite reach you until the silence returned inside. Sometimes this is the key, doing nothing extra. And then you'll see things begin to shift on their own, effortlessly, without expectation, but clearly, softly, and right on time. Because the real things don't need to shout. They simply happen when you're ready to hear them. This is not a finale, not a dramatic turning point, and definitely not a loud awakening. It's more like a quiet voice inside whispering, you're already on your way. You don't need to make bold moves. No need to reevaluate your life. No urgent decisions to take. Everything is already aligning. It's just that you might not see it yet. Sometimes the universe doesn't call for action. It asks you to pause, to remember you haven't lost your path, that everything important is already moving toward you. And June 19th is exactly that kind of night. Not for change, but for anchoring. For that quiet, internal confirmation that you are going exactly where you're meant to be going. It's the moment when intuition starts speaking louder than thoughts. When emotions become clearer. When you stop seeking answers and start feeling them instead. If things used to feel too tangled, now there comes that inner spaciousness where you can finally breathe, where there's nothing left to prove. Let this night not push you forward, but simply hold you. Let it not call you into the new, but remind you that what's real is already here. Let it not chase away pain, but make it translucent. If you let yourself simply feel, even without words, even without understanding, you'll notice much has already fallen into place, inside, gently, quietly. So may this night be a sign that you are not alone, that the world is speaking softly to you, with care, with trust, and that moving forward does not always need to be sped up. Sometimes it's enough just to stay still and let the energy pass through you. Everything is evolving, and the most important part has already begun.